My name is Dr. Rick Seguil.
And action. Hey, Jay had a... This is Kirk And action. Hey everyone, it's Dr. Rick. So Tony had a question about breakfast. And is breakfast important? This is going to be a quick one, but in this minute clinic, I'll talk about my objectives with my patients and what I think and what I do with regards to breakfast. But if this is the first time you're finding me, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below and the alert button, wherever that might be, to find out when I do new videos. So I don't eat breakfast. Used to. I felt that having a piece of a whole wheat bread, 1 to 3 pieces dipped in olive oil with spicy and garlic would make me go in the morning. That's the only reason I did it. And I thought I would need it to get through my day because I didn't like the growling of my stomach. But I don't think that's necessary. And in the advent of Walter Longo's fasting mimicking, Jason Fung's intermittent fasting ideas, and some folks who use keto practitioner, I think it's important to know that with the country being 20% to 30% overweight to obese, I think that we should accept the fact that there's a lot of insulin resistance. And having a physical exam that you get once a year or 3 times a year, depending on if you're a type 2 diabetes or a pre-diabetic or just overweight, when the docs do glucose and thyroid and glycosylated hemoglobin and tell you, okay, nothing's shown up yet, that's not the reason to continue on with your routine. I think we all have our challenges, whether it be cancer, obesity, a knee problem, headaches, fibromyalgia, whatever it is, we all have our challenges. But again, with the country almost going to half of the individuals of the country being overweight, you're going to have a problem with diabetes as well. Diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and then heart disease, all skyrocketing. Now that, in my opinion, doesn't mean that obesity is the cause of insulin resistance leading to diabetes. I actually think insulin resistance is the issue. That's why I check a fasting morning insulin. So anybody that's getting blood tests for me, please get them in the morning at the time that you usually wake up. So if I get up at 4:30 to 5 o'clock, there's no lab open at that point, but I try as best as possible to find a lab that's open at like 6:30 and just maintain my morning ritual till then, just no eating. So when you get the blood test, no eating for 12 hours. But drink a ton of water, because I think that if you fast and we have a really accurate random insulin, glycosylated hemoglobin, and a cholesterol or a lipid profile, that'd be cool. But if you come back super dry because you haven't eaten or drank anything for 12 hours, kidneys will be dry, and then I'll have to repeat the blood test again. So crank down some water. No flavoring, no nothing, just water. The other thing I would do would be to stop all vitamins 3 days before, because I don't want the vitamins to give me a false level of deficiency. And then again, I would try to shoot for the usual time in the morning that you wake up. The problem with some of my patients is that they get to the lab at 6:30 or 7 o'clock, and there's a long line. And then you wait in line, and it's like, oh shoot, and then the cortisol jumps up, and sometimes the insulin response, it gets triggered, and then it's a false high. So anyway, barring all those abnormalities or all those possibilities of bad decision making, to get the blood test. Once you come in to see me, we do a personal plan as far as deficiency fixing, weight fixing, nutrition analysis. I do all that myself, and I'm very comfortable with it. But everybody gets a different design, and I prioritize the strengths and weaknesses of the plan, and I work with your plan too to modify it so we have an end goal. The end goal is to try to live till 90, but some things get in the way. And if you live till 90, cool. If you live till 90 but you're in a walker and you have neuropathy and you've had a foot amputation or blindness, that's not cool. So everybody has their challenges, and everybody has their path to get to their summit. So I have my challenges, I'm trying to work on them. That's why I do as much as I can with exercise, even though it's only a little bit. And yes, it's only 15 minutes, 3 days a week, maybe an hour if I can afford that on the weekend. I miss breakfast. I stop breakfast. I don't miss it. I actually embrace the growling that the stomach goes through, because I think when you have growling, you're growling. I think I have a video. I'll try to put it down below. Growling means growth hormone. And when you have growth hormone come up, muscle responds faster. That's the way I think of it. And if muscle is growing, fat is decreasing. So when you don't have stomach growling and you're satiated or full, especially in the morning, especially with high carbohydrate, then you have insulin. You don't have growth hormone. Insulin makes you fat and usually makes growth hormone go down. That means you're losing protein. That's kind of summarized in a nutshell, roughly. But there's other nuances to that, but that's the basics. And I think that having breakfast in the morning sometimes triggers insulin response, which again, I check for. But if your insulin in the morning is high, something's wrong. That means the pancreas is starting to secrete insulin, or that means that the liver is starting to make glucose. Even if you haven't eaten, liver can make a ton of glucose. And that's called gluconeogenesis. It'll take your protein, your muscle, and make glucose because the liver thinks, oh, we're going to be having an insulin high. So again, whether it's the egg or the chicken, I'm not sure. But I think that blaming obesity and diabetes on overeating and not inactivity is unfair. And I have a lot of patients that have type 2 diabetes, T2D, but they exercise aggressively and they eat like nothing. Before, I remember talking to an old endocrinologist, and he would say, she's probably hiding her food, or she's probably not reporting it. And my patient was obese, but I think that she was exercising more than me and him. I think she was definitely exercising more than the endocrinologist. But it was unfair to blame the patient for the disease process. So I don't think that the obesity has caused the insulin issue. I think that's the opposite way around. So if it is the insulin that's spiking up in the morning and causing insulin resistance, causing your fuel partitioning to go specifically, meaning the food that you eat to go specifically to fat cells, unfortunately, you're going to get fat. And with all the efforts that you're doing, if we don't address that and just say, oh, you have to eat less and exercise more, I don't think that's fair, and it's not going to be correct, because you're going to continue moving into T2D, insulin resistance, and other problems down the line. So my suggestion as far as breakfast is, if you can get by, as long as you don't have any medicines. If you have medicines that you take for insulin or oral sulfonylureas or other diabetic medicines, you have to be careful, because if you suddenly stop your breakfast, you're going to have a problem with getting too low in your glucose, and then you'll bottom out and go to the hospital. So be careful. Get clearance from your doctor or me first. But I would say fasting, breakfast is important. That's why I put it as BreakFast, because breakfast. If you don't have any problems with getting by the first week or 2 weeks, then cool. But most people have withdrawal of some sort because they're used to having that wave of food in the morning. If you can get by the first 2 weeks, you can have coffee, no sugar, no cream, just black coffee, maybe tea. You can do fluids, but try to hold off until 10 to 12 in noon at least if you can. Give it a try, see what happens. If you can't make it because you're used to eating at 6 and having a little nugget or two, well, just get to 9. It's going to be, everybody needs a stepwise approach. Push as best as possible, postponing the first meal of the day. And after you get used to it, you can push even further. I'm now doing a 12, I start eating at 12 noon, I end about 8 p.m. depending on the day. So that's my cutoff, and I've been able to survive. I work out in the morning fasted, and if you watch my video, 15 Minutes of Hell, I'll do that kind of activity on an empty stomach, not having eaten for 10 hours. So you don't have to, that's me, you don't have to, I don't think you have, especially if you're overweight, you've got a lot of fuel in your fat cells, you should be able to trigger that to burn. And the only way to do that, I believe, is to switch over metabolism. And we don't have to talk about keto or being keto adapted, but I think that sometimes when you fast, especially with this fasting mimicking diet, I've found that your body starts to go into ketosis. It starts to go into being keto adapted, and that's when you can burn the fuel in your fat. Otherwise, if you just keep on with high grains in the morning, like cereals, oatmeal, anything refined, bread like I used to do, biscuits, pastries, you're going to just trigger that insulin response, and everything you eat is going to be going to fat. Not going to be going to muscle or brain or heart or hormone. It's going to be going to fat, and that's why. And then the brain will think, wait, I didn't eat anything. All that food I just ate this morning went straight to fat. I don't have it as fuel. I'm going to eat some more. So you see that bad cycle of events that happens. So bottom line is that if you can avoid grains in the morning, I would. If you can avoid carbohydrates, and you might have to talk to your registered dietitian, I would. Make it a little more protein, a little more fat, might be a little bit better for you, especially to not trigger the insulin response. If you can fast, I'd say give it a try for a while. And how long? Maybe about 3 months to see effectiveness. It takes a while. You have to get the body used to it. But also get ready for that Herxheimer-like reaction. You're going to have headaches, body aches, irritability. All that stuff comes because the body's been shifted over. It's used to a fuel source. It's not used to keto or fat. It's used to a carbohydrate. So when you suddenly say there's nothing there, it can't just switch over, and thus you have the body and the brain hunting. It triggers a response that's going to make you irritable, but that calms down after a while. So hopefully you can get past that. If you need the help of a registered dietitian, fine. Now always get cleared by your doctor, because the medicines you're on might not be great on an empty stomach, so you have to be careful. And I usually postpone my vitamins, everything except for magnesium, and depends on what I'm taking. Beta hydroxybutyrate, I'll take that in the morning, but everything else I start in the afternoon when I take my first meal. So hopefully this gives you a little of an idea. So try to work with this, work with dietitians, work with your coaches, and hopefully get to the point where you can manifest this and maybe put a dent in your blood test. And that eventually will be a dent in your disease process. So thanks for watching up till this point. Don't forget to subscribe, otherwise I'll see you at the next Minute Clinic.